Hilchos Hamoed is extremely important, and I once noticed through history there were times where people were very makbid Hamoed, and there were times it was just like totally not observed. What happened is the Jew, when unfortunately after the Holocaust we came to America, things are so different. People don't realize it's so simple to keep Hilchos Hamoed. It's not difficult, it's just the lack of knowledge. It's not something, certain things are difficult. Hamoed is not difficult. Certain people are allowed to work, certain people are not allowed to work, all depending really. So, Hamoed means the days between, let's say, Sukkot, the first day is Yom Tov, we have in Chitzor the first 2 days, and the last two in between, what would you call that in English? Intermediate days, which is and Pesach also, we have the first 2 days, and the second 2 days, and intermediate days, where you're allowed to do many things, but many things you're not allowed to do. Now, in the Rishonim, it's a huge machlokes. Anyone who learns Daf Yomi knows that the Rashi's opinion is Hamoed is an Issa Daraisa. It's not an episode of the Rabbanim. The Rashi and the Ramban and many Rishonim hold that Hamoed, you do something Hamoed, you're even Issa Daraisa. Very, very interesting. Interesting is about Rashi's opinion, and the Rashi holds that it's the Torah gave it over to the Rabbanim. They should decide what is Osir, what is Mutter. It's not like Hilchos Shabbos, where it's Halacha Moshe Messinai, the 39 Malachos. Shabbos, there's 39 Malachos. You're not allowed to plow, you're not allowed to sow, you're not allowed to cut. These are all, we learn it from Mishkan, but it's really Halacha Moshe Messinai. Here, the Hashem said to the Chachamim, I want you to decide what is right and what is wrong. We have one, the Ran says, Yom Kippur also that way. The Ran's opinion is that you're not allowed to wash Yom Kippur, you're not allowed to eat, drink, bathe, sicha, and the Ran learns that bathing, it says in the Mishnah, the Kala is allowed to wash her face. So if it's a Daraisa Hakura, so he learns that is given to the Banam to tell us what's right and what's wrong. But Rashi Shita is that way. Rashi learns it's an Esser, if you notice Daf Yomi. Rashi learns Esser means it's not a prohibition, it's a positive thing. I'm telling you, watch the days, intermediate days. The Rambam learns it's strictly a D'Rabbanan. The Rambam holds clearly it's a D'Rabbanan. It's very interesting to note, especially for Chabad people, that entire world, I don't know about the real Sfardim, but the entire world, the Chassidim and the Ashkenazim, we say Mikrui Kodesh on Hamoed too, on Shemoneh Esrei. Yom Tov, how do you say? And the Shemoneh Esrei, and Kiddush, and let me just take Musaf, that's the main Afkimina. He says, as Yom Tov Mikrui Kodesh Hazeh. And the Hamoed, the Rav says to take out the word Yom Tov to say Yoin. And it's the big talk. The Mishnah Berurah has a big question. He brings the Shulchan Aruch Rav, and he says others disagree. Others hold that from the Rav seems to say there is no chiyuv to eat and drink Hamoed. That's what it seems. Others are medayik from the Rambam. There is a chiyuv to drink milk. The Arishonim who say if you get Yala v'Yuva on the Hamoed days, you have to rebench. We don't pass it that way. We paskin if you ate it in the intermediate days, you sat down, you washed, you ate bread. If you got to say Yalo Yuva, it's okay. There are opinions that says not okay because they hold you must eat a meal. But everyone agrees that you're supposed to have Hamoed, a more choshev a meal. You got to treat it. Chassidim, I think in Chabad too, right? All Chassidim wear big diyantiv on Hamoed. Right. This is across the board, all Chassidim. And Big de Shabbos, like I wear Stramel, it's called Big de Shabbos. And what I do find, when people wear Shabbos clothing, it reminds them it's not a weekday. If you come in with your jeans, you forget about Hamoed is. If you come in with your Shabbos clothing, you remember it's not a regular weekday. Okay, so let's read the Mechaber. Hamoed, user bektsas meluches, certain meluches is also, emite b'miksusam, certain is okay. Fitzoyrich inyan, shoynelech chomem lahatir. Some learn the Muhal that's a Daraisa, and the Rabban were the ones who decided which is okay, which is not okay. So how we're going to see later, I don't want to get in the list, but I want to say over a frightening Yerushalma. The Yerushalma says, the Yerushalma, that's the Yerushalmi. Shalmi says that if there would be people with me, I would tell people to go to work Chalamoid. If I can get us, why? The whole Chalamoid is made to learn and daven, get closer to Hashem. And we take Chalamoid and we party and we don't learn and we go Disneyland, the Gulas. What? Might as well go to work. That's what Shalmi says. That what we do nowadays is not.
It's family time. You have to know how to word it. Spend time with the mishpacha.
So you at home, make a barbecue. Well, I'm just saying what the Shalma says. The Shalma does make I know this is a touchy Shalom Bayis problem. I lived through that. Okay. Okay, now let's learn the next sif. Simon. Gilach b'chalamoid. To take a haircut or to shave in chalamoid. First of all, mitzvah legalach be'erev yantiv. There's a mitzvah to take a haircut erev yantiv. There is a Ravid, I wrote down in my Mishnah Berurah at home, that holds that to take a haircut erev yantiv is a deraisa. Very interesting Ravid. To look good, a yantiv, and chalamoid is a deraisa. You gotta walk into yantiv looking the way you would go to a wedding tonight. You know what I'm saying? That's how you can, I once had someone, yantiv, and I said, you look like an oval. What happened? And then, like an oval. And, he's a clean-shaven guy, and he yantiv. It's Pesach, and he says, are you a guy? No, I forgot to shave. There's no excuse. Told him, you got to yantiv, you got to treat like you're going to a wedding. If him telling you would have gone to a wedding, he wouldn't have forgotten to shave. You know what I mean? There's a mitzvah the Mechaber says, mitzvah legalach. You have to to look well for yantiv. Now, let me explain something. Min adin, you're allowed to. Let me explain this clearly. The Rishonim all say that on Chalamoid, theoretically you're allowed to shave and take a haircut. Why? Because it's Soyrech Hamoed, and it's not a Meleches Uman. Let me explain something. Something that you need for the Chag, and it's not a professional job, you're allowed to do Chalamoid. To look good is a Tzorech HaMoed. There is a Rishon that holds it's more than Tzorech HaMoed, it's like eating. You should look at to look good. But the Ritva, they all bring the Ritva holds, it's called the Tzorech HaMoed. The reason the Rabbanim did not allow you to take a haircut in Chalamoid, we didn't want you to come into Chalamoid kishim menuvel. Menuvel means disgusting. Not shaven, not look good. The best marshal is the people who shave. You know what I mean? So, even if you have a nice beard, but if you don't take care what normally you cut off, you don't look good. So Chazal didn't, people are that way. Erev Yontav, we're busy. Look, Erev Pesach, you're extremely busy. Erev Sukkot, there's plenty of busy. Especially you have a family. We're very busy. So, you say, what? Chalamoid, I'll take a haircut, I'll take a shave. They didn't want. So they didn't allow you to take a shave and a haircut and chalamoid. We wanted you to come into Yontiv representable. So that's what you're not allowed to do with a goy, the Rishonim say. Because maybe a goy should give me a haircut. Because certain things will make. No, we want you to come into Yontiv looking good. So that's why you're not allowed to take a haircut.
Really, you should have been allowed.
You sure? Now, you know what Chassam Sofer says? Sofer says a very, very interesting thing in the Tshuva. Sofer says, according to Rasha, that learns it was given over to the Rabbanim to decide what's right and wrong. So if you took a haircut, even you do the Tzorech HaMoed, you're over Nisa D'Oraisa. It's a very, very powerful Chassam Sofer. You understand? Since it was given to the Rabbanim, now the Rabbanim says, we don't want you to shave Chalamoid. Take a haircut. Even though I'm doing it, We're going to want to do it to look great. But once the Rabbanan forbade it, so then it becomes an Issa D'Oraisa. So now the Mechaber says, Ili Migalchem B'Moed. These are the ones that are take a shave. I mean, it's a Mishnah. For them Gilach, Migalchem B'Moed for Gilach Kodem. Oh, this is an important thing. There is a Rabbeini Tam Shitta that says if I took a haircut Erev Yontiv, I'm allowed to take a haircut on Yontiv because I did what I could do. Right. But no one passes that way. We only pull out this Rabbeini Tam when there's a real great need. So we paskin like the Mechaber paskin, like all the Rishonim, even if I took a haircut. But this is very important for people who shave. That he took a shave Erev Yontiv, now it comes Hamoed. It's a 3 days beard. He wants to shave it off. We're not allowed to. You don't say that since you did it Erev Yontiv. So someone asked the Chassam Sofer in the Tshuva, he says, but it looks terrible. What kind of a Kuved Yontiv to walk around the 3 day, trades a style. What trades a style, the 3 day? But if something gets looking back, he says, that's the Kuved Yontiv that you don't shave. That it shows you respect. Chassam Sofer explains, you are showing respect for the Chag by not shaving. Very interesting how Chassam Sofer explains it. So he says, these are nice. Filahui unis erev yontiv in the kachla gichle yontiv and megalach moed. Be a deal mishur choyd nistrapa moed. Even if you were an unis something, you couldn't do it. The Gemara says a Moshe, he lost something. He lost an aveda. He couldn't take a haircut. He was with his child in the emergency room. I once had someone ask me that. It was a whole erev yontiv. He's with one of his children in the emergency room. Didn't have a chance. Doesn't make a difference. Chazal said you're not allowed to take because the Gemara will soon see why. Because most people don't know why you didn't take you're going to come into shul the first 2 days Yontiv, and then when you see you take a haircut on Chalamoid or a shave, people are going to say, "What is this?" They're not going to know that your child, we emergency soon with your child. So Chazal said everything. Okay. Then he goes on the Mechaber ve'il megalchem b'moyed. Mish yutzim beis ashviyah. He came out of captivity. He came out Erev Yontiv from captivity. Mish yutzim beis huasirim. He came out from the jail. That's a big chiddush the Mechaber says. It's based on the Gemara. He was in the jail. You know, from this Gemara is a raya. There was a jail system. You know, historians are busy, and I once saw a whole article, and I was surprised they didn't bring this raya. This raya is Rashi Masechtas Psuchim. There's a Rambam. There was such a thing as a jail system amongst the Jewish people. The guy was, a molester. A guy was hitting people. A guy was stealing. They would sometimes give makas mardas, and sometimes they would lock him up. Usually, the punishment was makas mardas. Makas mardas means caning, what we call in, I forgot which country that is, you cane him, and there's law and signal point. There was law and order. You know what I mean? But it says that he was in a Jewish jail, and they would have let him take a haircut there of Yontif. He didn't. You know why he didn't? He was depressed. So that, he's in jail. It's not a...
walk in the park.
Yeah, it's not a walk in the park. Even American jails, with all the rights. I went to visit in the jails, and I see it is... it's just terrible. Anyway, so it's called Yilautu. V'chein hamanida shetir loy berego. Hamida means a guy was a chayrim. A chayrim, excommunication. And they put a guy into excommunication, so he's not allowed to shave, he's not allowed to wash his clothing. So on Chalamoid, he came and he undone it. He asked forgiveness. But it doesn't want to give a get, or he didn't pay his loans, or whatever he did, Chalamoid, he came to ask forgiveness. So they undone his excommunication. So then he's allowed to take a haircut on Chalamoid. It's a big chiddush, because we tell him, hello, you could have done an Erev Yontiv, you could have apologized. Doesn't make a difference. Erev Yontiv, he was in his mood, he didn't. So now he did, you could take a haircut. He says, he made a neder, now he made a vow not to take a haircut. I don't know why, this was quite common in times of Chazal. People would take vows not to take a haircut. I don't see that nowadays. Anyways, people took upon themselves to... So he says, Menishel anidr beregel and Yontov he asked the Chacham. You know how you can undo a vow? You go in front of a Talmud Chacham for 3 people. They know how to undo it. So then all this is you came Hamoed. You're allowed to. If you did it Hamoed, you're allowed to hekar. Chanabu bebedina sayam Hamoed. He arrived on a boat Hamoed. I always joke about this, and I say, we have we know exactly when the plane is going to land. Right? I just came back from New York from my grandson. So my wife was waiting at the airport, and I didn't come off the plane. And she was so agitated. It took 15 minutes. So I says, the other plane was blocking. They couldn't get the thing. By us, 15 minutes. When they came with the boats, they had no idea when they could come. My mother says, for 2 days, her family was waiting when they came in 1948. 2 days they were waiting at the dock. They had already ways to relay, so they said it's going to either arrive Sunday or Monday. That's how much you did know. We are, if the plane is late 10 minutes, we live incredible. Okay, so he says, he arrived Erev Yantiv, there's no time to take it. Now this comes a very interesting halacha, Rabbi Sai. But you're only allowed to, if you arrive Hamoed, if you left, let me start explaining this whole halacha. If you live in Eretz Yisrael, you're not allowed to leave Eretz Yisrael unless you're looking for, you don't have panosa, even visiting. You're not allowed to go touring if you leave Eretz Yisrael. People don't know this. If you live in Eretz Yisrael, I want to go see Disneyland. An Israeli is not allowed to. He wants to visit family, that's okay. Wants to visit his friends, that's okay. But but if he's coming here just to go touring Disneyland and just the touring, you're not allowed to leave Eretz Yisrael. So if a guy left for Parnasa, he's allowed to. For wedding, he's allowed to Dvar Mitzvah. So if he left before Yontif and he didn't arrive till Hamoed, so he leaving Eretz Yisrael was a mitzvah. So if you're Hamoed, you're allowed to take a haircut. But if you left just for go touring, the guy wants to go touring America. So you were not allowed to. So now, even though you landed on Hamoed with the boat, you're not allowed to take a haircut, since the leaving was a Dvar Aveda. Interesting thing to see Yerushalmi.
Right, but if you left.
Eretz Yisrael just for touring?
No, but if you didn't leave for touring, then you.
Then if the boat landed in Hamoed,
Oh, I see.
then you're allowed to take a haircut. Because he arrived Hamoed. You follow? I tell you an interesting story. When I was very young.
What's the difference between, if you can't take it on, you couldn't take it on Erev Yom Tov?
Yeah, the boat. There was a boat. There was no way.
Oh, I see.
It's not like our cruise and we have a swimming pool and we have everything.
Yeah.
It's a whole different.
Different boat.
Yeah, it was well said. It was a whole different boat. You were happy that you arrived. That's why you're happy. Then I want to explain this halacha. It's very interesting that the first time I was in Eretz Yisrael, and I remember who it was. I was in a sharut with someone. This goes back a long time. And he tells me, since I'm an American, came to Eretz Yisrael, never left Eretz Yisrael, even for a wedding, my sister got married. I had to have a mishtabur chelik vav because it was Elul time. I said to him, I don't know where you took that from. I showed him the Shulchan Aruch. It says if you go for the wedding, you're allowed to leave Eretz Yisrael. You just go touring, you're not allowed to. So if you leave it, now, I don't want to go into this. Is a great land. If why people do leave and they're allowed to leave, so that's a whole separate question about this.
So you're not allowed to take a vacation even, unless you're visiting family.
Right, well said.
Take a vacation in Israel.
In Israel, very well said. Well said. Many people go to Turkey. Many people go to. If you're not going only for vacation, you're not allowed to go. You're right.
Maybe I know this is not on the subject, but what's the Kabbalistic insight on that halacha?
You don't need Kabbalistic. You know what the Gemara says? David the Melech says how to run away when Chol was chasing David. Chol was chasing David, and he ran to the borders of Israel, and he had to cross the border. He said that it's almost like worshiping idols, because in Israel you feel much closer to Hashem, In Chitz Uretz, we don't feel so close. We unfortunately, but David the Melech was so, how's the word in English, traumatized with this. The fact is that I have to live outside because Eretz Yisrael is the place where we get closer to Hashem. That's a fact. Okay. There's a famous Shulchan Aruch always quote, which very rarely does the Shulchan Aruch bring Kabbalistic ideas. And he says, in the beginning of Shulchan Aruch, that it takes, in Chitz Uretz, we have to have 2 days, because it takes 2 days the Kedusha of Yontif to settle into, but in Eretz Yisrael, the Kedusha is so high, it's just 1 day you absorb the Kedusha. It's famous, you know where it says it, famous now. Okay. So that's what he's saying. The tile. Tile means just for touring, like you just said, for vacation. So even though you're allowed to take a haircut, but don't do it in public. That means a person who came out of the boat, do a bitzina. Now, this is a very common question. I just had this, someone literally just texted me this question. Asked me that her twins are becoming 3 years old, I think, right after Yontiv, but her in-laws are going to come. They want to make Ashkenazim, we make a big thing about a haircut. So she wants to know, can she do a Hamoed? I said, you're allowed to take a haircut. That's a separate issue. You're allowed to give a child a haircut who everyone agrees, even to the bar mitzvah. Because the child it doesn't have the chiyuv sharikunis b'moed kishimenuvel. Understand? The child, we dress our children to where your wife's taste is. The child couldn't care less if the dress is nice. Till the age of who knows what, or the pants matches the shirt or not. You know what I mean? A child is a child. So it be paskin that a child at least shall give lechanech for sure. Other person won't even give lechanech. So you're allowed to make a how you say upsherenish,
Because the child is not aware of.
Child doesn't have a mitzvah. What does he know? So, but maybe you're allowed to give him a haircut on Chalamoid. Okay. Yeah, people do it. Yeah. Oval. That's the next mechaber. So this is Vov. You're allowed to give a child a haircut on Chalamoid. Then he says, yeah, sure also, but everything should like it be bitzina. Yeah, but no, but the Ramu says, but Kutn is a preference Yeshua. Sorry, the Kutn is a preference Yeshua because he's a child. No one's going to make a mistake. Talking about the other ones is bitzina. A child is in preference. So today they make a whole party. I don't know Chabad makes. In my neighborhood became a new shtick that you give a haircut, you have to have a big barbecue. Chabad also do such a big shtick? I don't know. I grew up, made nothing. Went to Cheder, that's it. I said, alle bezig, we gave peklich. Honey, exactly. That's why, that's what the minig, this old minig. The tray looks like they're not yotze with this minig. Okay. So the Mechaber, Uvel, this is a Mishnah, Shechal Shviya Shaloi Zayin. Let me explain, this happens. This could happen when, by us in the calendar, when Shabbos is Erev. Shabbos could be Erev Yontiv. Pesach, and twice in 19 years it comes out that Shabbos is Erev Yontiv. So what happens? The Uvel, his 7th day was Shabbos, so he couldn't take a haircut Shabbos. And it's beginning Yontiv now. So he didn't take a haircut before Yontiv, 7 days before he was an Uvel. And the 7th day was Shabbos Erev Yontiv. So now he's allowed to take a haircut on Yontif because he couldn't take before, obviously. Person who, I say him converted. Naidosh tshuva chuze v'tshuva. But darkoi the minig was to take a haircut once you do tshuva. The galach mitte le galach b'moyed. You're allowed to take a haircut b'moyed. Chalamoid, we're talking about Chalamoid. I want to quickly say, we don't have this, but at the times of the Rishonim, this was a real problem. There are many people of persecution that would shmad themselves. It was a big question. Give it tzar of a minyan, not tzar of a minyan. It wasn't so simple, this. Okay. Sug de mechaber ches. Kol udan Mitter,
So you said it's the seventh day of his.
Avelis comes out Shabbos, which is Erev Yontif, so you'll have to take a haircut Chalamoid because he couldn't do it before. So he says, Kol Uda Mitter Little Sufa B'Chalamoid, you'll have to cut your mustache.
Fingernails.
No, Mitter Little Sufa.
I'm
No.
saying it's like the
Oh,
fingernail.
yeah, but with some fingers. Everyone agrees you're allowed to cut your mustache in Chalamoid. It used to be very big paid to cut your mustache all the time. It was in the times of Shulchan they were very, very makbid. If no one had a mustache, it was considered disgusting if your mustache went over your lips. They were extremely makbid now to have that.
It's not like that now, is it?
Well, people, but you're allowed to, even though you're not makbid. You're allowed to cut your mustache in Chalamoid, because even if you cut it before Moed, it's annoying, so you're allowed to, the Gemara says, cut your mustache.
Sorry, is the first day of Moed, the first day of Moed falls on Shabbos, Erev Shabbos, sorry, or after Shabbos, the first days, when he can't cut his,
For first days, look, if the seventh day turns out to be Erev Yontif, an oval, the seventh day comes Erev Yontif, it was a weekday, he could have taken a haircut Erev Yontif. Why didn't he take a haircut Erev Yontif? No, the oval, the Yontif pushes away Avelis.
oh, okay.
So why didn't he take a haircut Erev Yontif?
Erev Yom pushes away the Avelis.
The Yontif pushes away the Avelis, you're allowed to take a haircut Erev Yontif.
Isn't the Isser for 30 days?
But Yontif pushes it away.
The Shiva.
Yeah, it takes away Shloshim too. But it pushes away Shiva. So let's move on. So he says, "Kol mitalit sufa b'chol hamoed." Afir b'fresya, publicly. Then he says, "Mita lucha v'lisik roish b'moed abishemesh yisarim zeb'sikra gilach." You're allowed to comb your hair, even though for sure you're going to rip out hair. Chol hamoed, there is no iser of psik reisha. You know what psik reisha means? You know, Shabbos, I'm not allowed to do something, I know for sure something is going to come out. I'm not allowed to take a chair, drag it in the backyard, it will make a groove. The famous question is, can I walk by a house where the light is going to go on? If you know if it works well, that's a psikresha. That's not so simple, but that goes in that category. Chalamoid, that problem doesn't apply. So you're allowed to comb your hair, even though you know for sure your hair is going to rip out. The Gemara has another case, you're allowed to comb an animal, the hair on that, even though for sure by combing you rip out hair, Chalamoid, there is no isab secretion. Okay, that's simple. He says, okay, then he says other also things that, you know, if a person has, you know, he has to cut his hair. The big question that girls ask, if they're allowed to shave the legs. Now, if they didn't shave it Erev Yontif, there's no really, they should shave it Erev Yontif. But if a lady has to go to the mikveh, and they're, you know, on Chalamoid, and they do it right before, then she's allowed to. Then she's allowed to shave her legs, you know, that's okay.
Only for going to mikveh.
Only for going to mikveh. Otherwise, she should have done it Erev Yontif. They don't do it every day. You don't shave your legs every day. They shave it, you know. But if they're going to the mikveh, everyone agrees you're allowed to. So you're allowed to cut your nails on Chalamoid. That's on the Mechaber holds. Comes the Ramah, our minig is you're not allowed to cut your nails in Chalamoid. Do you know why the Machlokes is? Then the Rishonim have the Machlokes because nails, even though you cut off Erev Yontif, it grows. So you need a new cutting in Chalamoid. You follow? Some say that, some say if I could cut my nails Chalamoid, no one will take care of Erev Yontif. They'll come into Yontif with long nails. Yeah, you notice that people have long nails, it looks disgusting. Just like, and that's why the minig is not to cut. But if you cut it Erev Yontif, the nails, then you could cut your nails in Chalamoid. Because since nails is a machlokes anyways, so again, the bottom line is, nails we don't cut on Chalamoid. But if you cut it Erev Yontif, you're allowed to cut it Chalamoid. Okay?
What's the situation with Shabbos? Cutting them on Wednesday or?
So just, it's not a nice thing to do it because by Shabbos it's going to grow.
So what days do you not cut on it?
You should cut it Thursday or Friday.
What about Monday, Tuesday?
You're allowed to, there's no Isser, it's just not a covered Shabbos because by Shabbos, Friday you're not going to have enough to cut.
Yeah,
And,
started on Thursday also.
You know, even Thursday, you should look fresh cut nails for Shabbos. You know, the truth is, I want to tell you something. I don't make such a big fuss about this. You have to remember how it used to be in the good old days. In the good old days, people had dirty hands. It was greasy. You barely clean your hands. Today, who has dirty hands? Honestly.
But the reasons aren't for the cleanliness. I mean, per se,
That's
they
no.
still are in effect today, right?
Like what? Cutting the nails?
Yeah.
Yeah, the cutting the nail, it looks good, clean. Like that. But to say a guy cut it 2 days earlier, you never notice people. Yeah. But that's why it's not. I always give the explanation. The lady has to do chafifa. Chafifa should take an hour. There's nothing today what a woman could do for an hour.
What's chafifa?
But when a lady goes to the mikveh, she has to clean herself very well. First she goes to the shower and clean herself very well, comb her hair. All that, the Gemara Shulchan should take an hour. There's not, today everyone is always clean. Everyone showers almost every second day or every day. You know, like, what is there to clean? It's not like, you sat in a scrub. You know, people are professional. A lady in my community is a professional painter. She has to go to mikveh. It's a big thing. You know what I mean? Because a painter doesn't want to use gloves. She once explained to me. You don't get the movement of the brush.
Cutting nails at night?
You don't cut nails at night.
Kabbalah or anything like that?
I'm not aware of it.
So if her hand is stained from the paint, is that considered a?
Well, like at Chila, we're machmir to take it off. All the mikvahs have a special remover, these stain removers.
There's no, like
Yeah, sometimes it doesn't come off, but we say it's okay. She got to mikvah. But we try to take it off. We do try to take it off. People have called me from the mikvah. She tries this, tries that, doesn't come off. Certain, paints, are much harder to come off. So. Okay, as a surgeon, I don't know. I've been asked this more than once. They mark something on the body when they do a surgery, right?
Yes.
And that sometimes is very difficult to come off. The woman complained. Well, you have to try your best. Nothing comes off. Then you're allowed to. That's a whole arichas hilchas chatzitza, because we paskin me'ikar adin if there's no mamoshes. Moshes means no, substance. It's just a stain. Me'ikar adin we paskin is not a chatzitza. It's a machlokas, but we make it. So we try everything in the world to take it off. Okay, let's move on to Boisai. The Mechaber then says, the Dermus says, we don't take the nails off, but with the nail or with the shear. Unless a lady goes to the mikveh, then she's allowed to cut her nails. And just for the record, the meaning is that women do not have long nails when you go to the mikveh. Every few weeks I get a phone call from the lady in the mikveh. There's a Shulchan says, that's the minig because we're afraid that dirt is going to be under the nail. This is a minig which is 1,000 years old. The Rashba brings this minig and he says it's an old minig. And the Rashba lived about 800 years ago, 700 years ago. So we do know the minig is 1,000 years old, that a woman should not go to mikveh with long hair. Long nails, not hair. Nails, I'm sorry. Then the Elchonon says, Kol refuah mitav Hamoed. All medicines. You know how to go to the dentist. People have asked me this all the time. You know how to go to the dentist, Hamoed. The dentist could be a Jew, can help you heal, even though he does a malacha, he drills, and who knows what he does. But all this is mitav Hamoed. You pass Hamoed, you're allowed to go to a doctor, you're allowed to do tests, whatever it has to be done. I've been asked worse. I've been asked this yontiv, where a child was not well, they couldn't figure out, and they got a specialist to look at the child. The only appointment was a yontiv, and the doctor didn't know how to diagnose this, and finally got a specialist to him. If either it was going to be that day or a week later, 2 weeks later. And the doctor says, I don't know what the diagnosis is. We do need a specialist. I says, just take a taxi and take him to UCLA. Got an appointment. You never know what it is. Baruch Hashem turned out to be, it wasn't so. But you're allowed to do that. But Hamoed, there's no question you're allowed to go to the doctor. No question you're allowed to go to the dentist. Kol refuahs is mitter. All healings. Even though you're doing a malacha, it's okay. All right. Now, let's learn Tuf Kif Lamed Gimel, the next sermon. I want to say something that many people are not aware. I always like to say a story over. I remember many years ago, a guy tells me that his wife is going to Israel right after Sukkot. His daughter is expecting a child, is the first grandchild. And I said, why don't you come eat by me? He says, well, my wife, a whole Hamoed, made meals, frozen meals for me, a whole Hamoed, she was busy. I said, I'm not sure you're allowed to eat it. Then I looked it up and I said, it's okay. People don't know, you're not allowed to cook and bake and Hamoed for after Yom Tov. And that's what she did. Oh, Yom Hamoed, he told my wife was busy preparing frozen meals. She put in 2x4s, whatever, frozen meals, and she cooked and baked for her, for him. Anyways, so this is what the Shiurim was going to discuss. You're allowed to do, bake, cook, grind seeds to get flour. Only what I'm going to use on, what's his name? On Yom Tov, on Hamoed. But I cannot make anything for after the Yom Tov. This is very, very important.
So why was it okay for him?
He wasn't. The question, I looked up, there's a big machlokes to the Rishonim, and anyways, he was a shoygig. And shoygig, the Chaim says it could be mekel. He had I never heard of such a halacha.
He was shoygig,
She was a shoygig, both him and her. I can't cook. I mean, when I say this in Rabbi, every Yom Tov I teach it in Shul, I always bring this, but people are shocked. What am I doing? I'm just cooking. Yes, you can cook for after the Yom Tov. That's what Shulchan is going to talk.
The fact that they didn't know the halacha makes them...
But it's a shoygig, yes.
Not
Yes, that makes... Shoygig means a mistake. Inadvertent. Which is okay, but if you done it, you're allowed to eat it. Mitte litchoin kemich l'tzorich Hamoed. You're allowed to grind flour l'tzorich Hamoed, even though it's a big hassle. You know, we don't even know what it means, grinding. But you know, every house, do you know that every house, you see the Mishnais and times of the Mishnah had a mill, a rechaim sheyad, a mill that you grind the flour, to grind they used to go, you went to the store, didn't get flour, luxury, getting flour, are you kidding? You went home and you grinded it, it was up to you how fine you want the flour, how much money you had, what bread you're going to make. So, even though it's a big malacha, if you're doing the moed, I'm allowed to. Let me explain something very, very important. We're going to learn later in Chalchas Chalamoid, if your intention was to do the malacha on moed, l'moshel, we're going to learn later Dover Ovid. You know what Dover Ovid? A loss. In Chalamoid, if there's a loss, you're allowed to take care of it. If you don't do it, you lose money. You're not going to gain money, of course. You don't work, you don't earn. But there's a loss. You know what I mean? Many people, one of the things that is a big kula, but I tell people you could be soimach. A guy tells me if I close down my office, I have to pay 25 people. 25 going. There's legally, it's the law. It's a credible loss. To pay 25 people for a week. It says he has to pay them for the first days, the second of Yom Tov. He has no way out. It's the labor laws, whatever. So if he closes down the business, so that's called over. There's many things. Let's say the lock is broken, the Mishnah says. You're allowed to fix the lock in Chalamoid. He says, you know what, right before Yom Tov, you know what, great, Chalamoid. I'm convinced my wife, Chalamoid, we're doing a project, we're fixing the lock. That means you're not allowed to. You're mechaven, malachto, b'moyed. That means you cannot push it off for the moed and do it. That means if there's a lock that's broken, you're allowed to fix it. If you broke before, you got to do it before. If you did push it off for Chalamoid, you're not allowed to fix it. But food, I knew before Yom Tov, I'm going to need to grind flour Chalamoid. I'm allowed to say legetchila, even though grinding is a tough job, very difficult. I'm going to get allowed to grind the flour because that's food what I'm doing. So by food, you understand what Shulchan is saying? I'm allowed to get chila, grind, do. You know, we are very lucky. I see my own wife. I'm sure many of your wives do that. They cook before Yom Tov, right? Your wife doesn't cook Chalamoid. Chalamoid, she wants to be out with the family. Because we have a freezer. We live I always joke about it. I remember asking one of my children, she was about 6 years old, I forget how old she was, says, where do chickens come? She told me, from the freezer. That's what I decided many years ago. Every 3 years when the children were young, I took them to a farm. They should see where the milk comes. They should see where the chicken comes, with the eggs. I asked them, where do chickens come? What do you mean? It comes from the freezer. Okay. Anyway, Zug the Mechaber, he says, you're allowed to litchem to tzorich afile kivim malachtam Hamoed. Velukitz eitzem mechaber. You're allowed to chop wood for fireplace and Hamoed. Imagine you go chopping wood in the woods because I need fuel. Wood. Ilhat the shecher to make beer. Beishit tomorrow men shesoirim. Beer made of dates. For some reason, I'm not a beer maker, but beer is very big job to do. I don't know why. Anyone makes beer over here? And making beer is a huge, difficult job. The chiddush is, even though it's such a difficult thing, you're allowed to make Hamoed. You're allowed to say, I'm going to do Hamoed if I'm going to enjoy it, Hamoed. You're not allowed to do it. You're not allowed to make beer for after Yom Tov. You're not allowed to cook. You're not allowed to bake.
If you have some of it on the Moed,
Oh, he's going to talk about me. I'm making beer now. I'm making bread. Hamoed. I don't have to, you know what tzimtzum means? I don't have to figure out how many people are eating. You're going to eat 2 slices. You're going to allowed to make, like all our wives, make a night of a Yom Tov a lot. But the leftover is leftover. Point is, you cannot make a lot because I really want for the weekdays. You understand? I'm allowed to make archava. How you say archava in English? Not abundance. That means you don't have to figure out, ask everyone how much glasses of beer you're going to drink. You're going to drink. How to make a nice sum, but if I'm doing twice as much as I need, that's obviously doing after. You're not allowed to do that, he says.
But you make for the end days, that's not
You make what?
for the end days of Yom Tov.
Yes, for sure. You're allowed to make for the last days. The chiddush is that you have a good question. I'm allowed to do it even for the achron shel Yom Tov, even though it's really a weekday. See what he's pointing out, the Avram points this out. He asks, I'm allowed to do Hamoed something, I'm allowed to do for Shvisha Pesach, but Shvisha Pesach is Yom Tov. Am I allowed to do it for Achron? Achron Pesach is clearly a weekday. Yes, I'm allowed to cook and bake in Hamoed for Achron Pesach. You understand the Chiddush? Because really Achron Pesach is not Torah nothing. But still you're allowed to. He says, then the Mechaber says, He's not allowed to make a trick and say, I'm going to make a lot, and I'm going to, that you're not to do. He says, now, this guy, what happens is, you know what haruma means? Haruma, there's certain times in halacha where you're allowed to make a trick. I'll give you a marshal, a heteriska. A heteriska you're allowed to make. You know what a heter is? You give a loan to someone. The Torah says you're not allowed to give ribis. I forgive you a loan. I can't charge you interest. But there's a loophole how you could do it. There's a whole loophole. There's certain things you're allowed to. Here the Gemara says, let's say I have flour. I'm going to say to myself, you know what? I really want new flour. Really, that's full of baloney. But I just say that because I wanted the old flour should stay for after Yom Tov. If you're making a room, you're not allowed to. Or beer. He has plenty of beer. And he says, you know what? I want fresh beer. Fresh beer is not better than old beer. The Elchonon is going to say now, bread, if you have bread, but everyone knows fresh bread is better, that's true. You want to eat the fresh bread. But beer and something like that doesn't make a difference. You're not allowed to make haroma. That's a very, very interesting halacha. You're not allowed to even make haroma to make beer. What is beer making? Anyone knows how to make beer? I think they just cook it, no? But it's also cooking.
Yeah, cooking is part of it.
So I'm trying to think the melucha. Melucha drais is cooking. And I'm not allowed to cook it since I only want it for after Yom Tov, so I'm not allowed to do that.
There are certain kinds of flour that go rancid. There are certain kinds of flour that become rancid.
If you don't take care of it. That's a doveruvet, you're allowed to. You're right. That's called a doveruvet, you're allowed to do that. Okay. So it says, Yesh lechem litchain, the pas cham fresh bread is always better. Even sheikh and chulish uda v'lo herum, and you're allowed to. So Bekitza, we learned over here On Hamoed, you're not allowed to cook, bake, make beer for after Yontif. So I know it's a chiddush for most people, but you're not allowed to do that. Okay. Also, someone asked me recently, we're going to later this hopefully, someone asked me recently, not this Yontif, last Yontif, they want to go shopping for the baby wasn't born yet. So we Ashkenazim are very makpid, you know, the shopping for baby, but the Sfardim, they're not makpid. So he says to me, I'm a Sfardi, I'm allowed to go shopping. I says, you're not allowed to do shopping. You don't have the baby yet. Yeah, when the baby's going to come, don't worry. You have both of the first grandchild, don't worry. Your mother and your mother-in-law will be busy pampering the child. You don't have to worry. But you want to ask?
Somebody, maybe a thing like they want to break a fast. They start cooking before the fast is over to break the fast. Is that allowed?
That's okay. That's okay. Okay. Let's learn see base. Mutter, you're allowed to. So this is a very simple halacha. Well, you're allowed to rip out pishtim. See, I want to explain something that many people don't realize. Let's say you're walking on the street, Chol Hamoed. You pass a flower, just rip it out. You're not allowed to do that. It's like Yontif. You know, people have a habit of walking, grab something and just rip it. You're not allowed to do that, Chol Hamoed.
Is it for the same reason as why you're not allowed to do it on Yom Tov?
Right. Just like Yontif, there's no need. If there's no need for the Yontif right now, you're not allowed to. If you want to cut flowers to decorate the house, that's called the Tzorech Yontif. You're allowed to do that. But just because, that's what the Shiurim is talking about in the next case. It's not so much the gay buzz. Anything that you cut must be a need for Terei Yontif.
So you mean that if you can avoid malacha, you should avoid malacha?
Like what? Give me a mashal. I don't have to avoid. I need it. There's no reason. I want to cut this flower. Shiurim used to cut things. Either the woman used to cut pishtim. So either used to cover this, the things shouldn't go rancid, food, or they would use it. They didn't have soap and they didn't have shampoo. Looks like they used pishtim. The woman washed themselves and make the bodies look prettier, glowing, whatever. Makes them look nicer. So you're allowed to rip only for that. But you can't just walk by and just rip something out on the ground.
Well, a person enjoys listening to music, so they want to play music on phone with.
Well, that's a Tzorech Hamoed.
Okay.
That's called a Tzorech. People ask me, can the children paint? Color me mind. You know what color me mind? You have a... You're not allowed to. Once a child is giyah lechenuch, no.
Color me mind, you can't do it?
You can't do. I know Chol Hamoed, color me mind is busy.
Because it's not the source?
But it's not Tzorech. It's just to waste time.
People want to watch TV.
Yeah, but you're not making a malacha. Which malacha? You're enjoying the moment then, right now. Color me mind is the time you waste, and you color, you're painting.
The kids are enjoying it immensely.
They're not enjoying. They hope at the end they get something.
They really have a good time. What do you mean?
No.
I don't understand. Can you explain what's behind this, the purpose, like where you guys are comparing watching something on TV and he's...
See, watching TV is a question. Do I do a malacha by putting on the TV or putting on the computer? Is there malacha done? But I'm doing something that music I'll enjoy right now. I am enjoying the music right now.
So
That's crush. The color remind the end of the thing, after you painted it and you find it.
Where do you go to a painting class?
You're not allowed to go to a painting class.
I think I understand because you take pleasure from it when the art
There is complete. Right now there's nothing. If I put on music, I enjoy the music right now. It's called the Tzorech Hamoed. This is just, this is really music people listen all the time. Rightfully, wrongfully, but they do. Color in mind is a way, it's too much time, you got to do something about it, our time. Pianos is no malacha done, period. There's no malacha. No. There's no malacha. Yeah, but it doesn't say Chol Hamoed should be also. That doesn't say any place. Other Rabbis, Simcha Beis Yesheva, they always played music. Simcha Beis Yesheva, They play always mean there's a Beis Hamikdash.
Right. So what's another example other than Halacha?
What else? Fishing. You go fishing in a place, your wife is not going to let you eat the fish. If you go fishing to eat the fish, that's okay. You're allowed to. But a guy told me that he goes fishing. My wife will never let me. She's health-minded, and who knows what. So you can't go fishing.
Let's say a family goes camping.
Yes, so what's wrong?
Let's say they're going to make a campfire.
So they need the campfire to cook, to keep it. For what?
Some for fire. What do you mean? They can enjoy it. Some for fire. They want to have a fire at night. They're not cooking.
Yeah, I don't know if it's mitzvah. That's not a tzorich hamoed. I don't know how to make it tzorich.
If they enjoy it, yeah, you don't understand the mindset. People enjoy it.
That's not a. It's a romantic enjoyment. It's just I don't. Doesn't sound right. You can't make anything that's enjoyment. It's a tzorich. To cook, to eat normally, everything is a tzorich then.
How far do you take it?
The barber is a person who loves to cook. Can I cook for after Yontiv? The people love to cook. There are people. There are people who love to cook. Of course, you're not allowed to.
And they'll eat it on Tauber.
That's okay. If you go fishing, eat Hamoed is okay. But if you go fishing knowing you can throw back the fish, then you're not going to eat it. Then
The issue there is
catching a fish, tzeda.
How about exercise?
Exercise is not a malacha. It's okay.
Why can't we exercise on Shabbos?
Shabbos, Chazal made it. With the Chol, doesn't say Chol Hamoed.
Can't exercise
On Shabbos, you're not allowed to exercise.
Even if exercise is walking?
No, that most Poskim hold that walking is okay.
If you're walking
Walking
for the purpose
regular.
of exercise, you're walking
No, you
fast
can't do
walk.
that. Just a nice long walk.
Okay.
If you're walking with, walking
Yeah.
with, that you're not allowed to. Take a nice long walk.
No push-ups,
Right.
Who's a regular walk? You can't.
exercise.
On Yom Shabbos? No one is matter. The question is taking a long walk. It's not noticeable that it's for exercise. Can you do that?
That you can do.
There are some Chaim want to be machmir, but most of the Chaim hold it's a mitzvah. Since you cannot tell him I walk, why I'm walking. I could be walking to Pico for bris. I could be walking to the hospital for visiting. Well, I just took a long walk. No one knows where I'm going. But if, like you said, the power walking, and you put on the shoes and you put on the gear, right? The right gear, that shows you're doing exercise. That you can't do. But Hamoed doesn't apply. You're allowed to exercise, you're allowed to work out, you're allowed to jump rope.
Swimming?
So allowed to go swimming, Hamoed. All this is okay, Hamoed. But you know what you can't do? If you go away Hamoed with the children, you can't buy a souvenir. There's no tzorich hamoed. You're not allowed to shop anything that there is no tzorich hamoed. So people always give me a hard time. That's a double Ovid because I want to tell people I was at Disneyland.
How is swimming tzorich hamoed?
You don't need swimming. There's no is in swimming. There's really no malacha swimming. Swimming, there's no malacha.
On Yom Tov,
It Chazal made exer yonta. Maybe you make chuvish shaiten, but you didn't make exer chalamoid. All these never chalamoid. You're allowed to swim. You're allowed to play music. You're allowed to jump.
So the gezerah of Hamoed is not based on the gezerah on Yom Tov?
No, chalamoid be aset tircha and malachas. Something that's very difficult to do. We don't want you to be matriach, he said, but we can't make our own tirchas up. It has to be the Gemara says. So that's what I'm trying to say. Hamoed is not so difficult to keep, really, nowadays. There's just a few things you're not allowed to do. It's really not.
But the mindset has to begin that when I was in
Yeah, well, that's a hatter. Doing a malachas, like a driving, we get later. Why are you allowed to drive? You're putting on a fire. Because we LA people don't know how to walk. We need a Shem Yichid walking. Stamazoi, people drive for 2 blocks. It's a whole different. So that's why this rest of the sefer, we don't even have these things. The kitzah, the Shulchan Aruch says you're allowed to, people who do fishing for the yontiv, people catch fish. We live in a different world. Used to catch fish, they bring it into the market. You know, if you notice that this was a big thing in Europe. Not all over where they had fish. People don't appreciate this. Do you know where our fish comes from? Michigan, from the Great Lakes, or who knows what. I asked one time what's it called, the fish store, fish grill. Where does he get the fish? He said, gets delivered by plane from Michigan. I said, what? I thought, we live in a different world. You know, I mean, they ship the fish, imagine. Goes on a plane, comes from Michigan. But those days, if you caught the fish and you sold it around the rivers, now, that was the fish that you had. So the Shulchan Aruch says that a fisherman is allowed to catch berchova a lot because to make sure there's so fish you're allowed to catch a lot because fish you're not always this is not such a good fish. I don't know, it's not good to cover yontiv. You know, I'm not familiar, but you know, people go fishing would say this is a good, this is not. So you're allowed to catch a lot of fish. It's the only thing you're allowed to catch a lot, even though for sure you're not going to eat all of them. Because each fish, you're not sure, man, this is a good fish for yontiv. This is a cheap fish. I'm not going to use that for yontiv. Okay? Let me start just the next sif. You know, Chazal, washing clothing really should be mitech Hamoed. That's sif tuf kif lamadal. Really should. The reason is because you need clean clothing. The Rabbanim said you're not allowed to clean your clothing and Hamoed. We don't want you to come into Hamoed with dirty clothing. Same thing. Yeah, and the Chanama, we're going to learn later about it, but we pass, the main time is Moed over here, we'll soon see why. But everyone agrees that you're not allowed to, even though nowadays we have so many shirts and Chazal Aser to this is so. It's so easy to keep. All you got to do is a little extra clothing. Even the shiksa, you have to stop her from washing the clothing on Hamoed. And in my neighborhood, it's very negay because the shiksa does it all by her own. She knows that this day she does this, and you have to tell her no.
Even if it makes her job easier?
Yeah, tell her no. My house, she knows. Not Hamoed. Very simple. But you're allowed to for young children. Babies who make everything dirty. But I have said this so often, all the Gedolim agree. It's not just in Moshe. You're not allowed to put, people argue, anyways, I'm pushing the machine button to wash the baby's clothing. Might as well put my shirt in, my socks in. It's the same button. No, because the Rabbanan did not want you to wash clothing Hamoed because I don't want you to come into the Yontiv with dirty clothing. So this is very important. See, you're not allowed to wash any clothing. No laundry Hamoed. You can't tell the shiksa, you have to stop the shiksa. So even though nowadays, I don't think I ever saw someone come into weekdays clothing in shul, ever. Because we have more, it doesn't make a difference. Once the Rabbanim Asa did, the Issa stays. So one of the big problems people ask me, people come with guests, they come with children, the children aren't babies anymore, but how much clothing can I bring with them? There's no heta really. Rather go buy another shirt for your child than to do laundry. This is one of the things which people think it's Mesiras Nefesh. It's just not my neighborhood. It's not expensive. It's just a tircha. It's hard for my neighbor to say the expense is just a tircha. So really, there's no heta. No heta to have the shiksa wash clothing, and even when she's allowed to for the children, cannot put in. The only thing you're allowed to wash, the shiksa is allowed to wash, is towels. Because the Mishnah says you're allowed to wash towels, even though the meaning in Shulchan Aruch time wasn't, but nowadays people change towels every day. So the reason you're allowed to wash towels, because even if you have to wash and dry it Erev Yontiv, you still need it on Yontiv.
You're not sheets for the bed.
Well, you don't change it every day. Unless something happened, you don't have enough sheets, someone stained it, a child,
So it's just the clothing we wear is
Yeah, we wear it, but Chazal didn't want you to wash anything. It's very good what he's asking. Because you see from Tau, he's asking a very important question. Right. No, but he's asking, how about not things that we wear? How about a sheet? But it's not the clothing. I think Chazal didn't want you to even wash the towels. The only reason the Mishnah says you're allowed to wash towels is because we change everyday towels. So you see, Bekitza, we could wait the 8 days till after Yom Tov to have the clothing washed.
But I don't understand. We went to such an extent, you said to have Simchas Yom Tov, and they allow us to do so many things that usually we don't. You wouldn't think would be allowed. In this case, you're saying you want us to come into Yom Tov with clean clothes.
Yes, if you could wash Hamoed, you'll come in the Yom Tov with not clean clothes, and you say, I'll wash it Hamoed. We want you to come with clean clothes.
They wash before and it's not enough.
I know that, I know, but Chazal asked it still. The reason it's not enough because we change every day. No.
Like a towel.
Right, but doesn't Chazal ask
Second
this?
days you can't wash? So
Nope.
If you don't have clothes, it's better to buy.
Buy, it says all the poskim agree universal. No one, I looked already so often because so many people ask me this. Rather go buy shirts and underwear. This is very important. People they come from, visiting Yom Tov. Children come home, my children come. It's a big hassle. My daughter came with the children. It's a hassle that, they're not babies in there.
Washes it.
You're not allowed to let the hash.
When you're not home, you're not allowed to wear it? No, I'm not asking for permission.
If she did it, but it could be it's okay. But you have to stop and tell her you're not allowed to do it. This is, it's amazing. This is about the only thing that is really shouldn't do, and everyone gives me a hard time.
Because it's very difficult. Because you have to buy
It's not so, in times of Shulchan Aruch there were a lot worse difficult things.
They were not that clean.
Yeah, I'm saying, but that's about the only thing that keeps people. So you buy extra shirts. Look, my income is limited. We managed when the children were young. Just made sure they worked it out. When once it's asa, we get to chanaitza. Once the door is closed, you figure out how to get it done. The problem is we try to make it crack. When I say it's no, that's the nature of humans. You'll find the nature. It'll be clean, you'll buy extra clothing, all of a sudden. Okay, we'll stop over here.